Who dares to trouble my love? Love is supposed to be simple. That's what I used to believe. Before the whispers started. Before the stares followed us through every crowded street. Before the weight of unseen hands tried to pull us apart. Before someone decided that we didn't deserve to be together. It started small. A misplaced message. A phone call that cut off the moment she answered. A shadow lingering just out of sight. At first I thought it was nothing. But love should never come with warnings. And now I want to know who dares to trouble my love. She tried to brush it off. It's just in your head, she told me, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. People talk. It doesn't mean anything. But it wasn't just talk. It was something more. It was the way her friends started avoiding her. The way familiar faces turned cold. The way even strangers seemed to know something I didn't. Someone was interfering. Someone didn't want us together, and they were getting bolder. The calls weren't random anymore. They came at night, when the house was dark, when we were alone. No words, just silence. A breathing that wasn't ours. I held her close, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. Tell me the truth. Who is doing this? She hesitated. And that's when I knew she already had a name. She wouldn't say it. Even as I watched the fear flicker across her face, even as her fingers trembled slightly in mine, she kept quiet. That silence told me everything. Whoever was behind this wasn't just some stranger. It wasn't meaningless gossip or petty jealousy. It was personal. And for some reason, she was too afraid to speak their name. That night, I kept my eyes open long after she had fallen asleep. I listened, waited, and then the phone rang. I grabbed it before it could wake her, pressed it against my ear. Silence. Not the kind of silence that came from hesitation. The kind that carried weight, intention. I didn't hang up. Instead, I whispered, "Who are you?" A slow breath on the other end. Then a voice. Low, amused, familiar. "You should have stayed away." The line went dead. I sat there in the darkness, my pulse hammering in my ears. This wasn't a warning, it was a threat. And now I had no choice. Whoever dared to trouble my love was about to regret it. Morning came, but the feeling in my chest didn't fade. The voice on the phone wasn't just trying to scare me. It wasn't a prank or a coincidence. It was someone who knew us. Someone who wanted me gone. I turned to her as she stirred awake, watching the way her eyes fluttered open, unaware of what had happened while she slept. I had a choice. I could tell her about the call, about the voice in the dark that had promised something I still didn't understand. Or I could wait, figure out who was behind this before it was too late. She noticed something was off. "You didn't sleep, did you?" she asked softly, studying my face. I forced a smile, just thinking. She reached for my hand, her fingers warm against mine, but I could see it now. She was hiding something too. She knew more than she was telling me, and I wasn't going to let it go this time. That evening, I followed her. I didn't want to, but I had to. I needed to know where she went when she thought I wasn't watching. I needed to see if the person troubling her was someone she had been protecting all along. She walked quickly, her head down, slipping through side streets I had never seen her take before. My heart pounded as I stayed back, watching, waiting. Then she stopped. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, confident, standing too close to her. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to, because when she reached for their hand, I knew I had been right all along. The person troubling my love was someone she had never let go of. I stayed in the shadows, my pulse hammering in my ears. She wasn't afraid of this person, that much was clear. The way she stood close, the way her shoulders tensed, not in fear but in familiarity. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't just someone meddling in our lives. This was someone from her past, and she had kept them a secret. I watched as they spoke in hushed voices. She wasn't pulling away. She wasn't telling them to leave. If anything, she looked conflicted, like she was caught between two choices she didn't know how to make. Then the figure reached for her wrist, and she didn't resist. My stomach twisted. Had I been fighting for something that was never mine to begin with? I couldn't stand there any longer. I stepped forward, my footsteps deliberate, my presence no longer hidden. She turned sharply, her breath catching the second she saw me, her lips parted, but no words came out. And the figure beside her, they didn't look surprised, they looked amused, like they had been expecting me all along. Well, the stranger murmured, shoving their hands into their pockets. Took you long enough. My fists clenched at my sides. Who are you? They tilted their heads slightly, their eyes flickering back to her before settling on me. You mean she hasn't told you? I turned to her, waiting, daring her to say something, to tell me the truth. But she just stood there, silent. And that silence told me everything. She had been keeping more than just a name from me. The air between us was thick with something unspoken. She stood there, caught between me and him. Her lips pressed together like she was trying to find the right words, or trying to avoid saying them at all. I wasn't going to wait any longer. Tell me the truth. My voice was steady, but inside everything was unraveling. She exhaled, looking down for a moment before finally meeting my eyes. I didn't want you to find out like this, she murmured. I glanced at the man beside her. He hadn't moved. He was watching us, waiting for what? For her to choose, for me to break, or had this all been part of his plan? She took a slow step forward, but I didn't move. I was going to tell you, she whispered. When? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Before or after he tried to scare me away? She flinched, guilt flashing in her eyes. And that's when I knew she had known about the calls. She had known someone was trying to push me out of her life, and she had let it happen. The man chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. This is painful to watch, he muttered. Just tell him. I turned to him, my patience gone. Tell me what? A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. That you were never supposed to be here. His words hit like a slap. I looked at her again, searching for denial, for anything that told me he was lying. But she just stood there, silent. That silence crushed me more than any words ever could, because now I knew the one troubling my love wasn't just him. It was her too. The world around me faded. Nothing existed except the space between us. A space that had never felt wider. She still hadn't denied it. She hadn't said he was wrong. She hadn't reached for me, hadn't fought to make me stay. And that silence burned more than any betrayal. I let out a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Was any of it real? She flinched at my words. Finally, something cracked in her expression, but she didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned to him. That told me everything. He smirked, shoving his hands into his pockets. You should leave. You were never part of the plan. Plan? I turned to her, my heart pounding. What plan? Her lips parted, but no words came out. Not a denial, not an excuse, nothing. The air between us shifted, cold and unfamiliar. The woman I thought I knew, the one I had fought for, was slipping through my fingers. Had I ever known her at all? She finally spoke. This isn't how I wanted it to happen. A bitter laugh escaped me. And how did you want it to happen? She didn't answer. I took a step back, the weight of reality settling in. This was never just about love. There was more, something bigger, something she had been hiding from the start. And now I wasn't sure if I had been her mistake, or just her pawn. The night air felt heavier now, pressing down on me as the truth unfolded before my eyes. I had come here thinking I was protecting her, fighting for her. But now I wasn't sure if I was the one being played. She still hadn't answered my question. She still hadn't chosen a side, and that silence was louder than anything she could have said. I took another step back. You used me, didn't you? Her breath hitched, but she didn't deny it. That was all I needed to know. The man beside her sighed dramatically. You're making this more painful than it needs to be. I shot him a glare. Stay out of this. But he just grinned like he had already won. Like I had lost before I even knew I was playing. I turned back to her. My voice quieter now. Tell me the truth. She hesitated, her hands curling into fists at her sides. I never meant for you to get hurt. My chest tightened. That wasn't an answer. It was an admission. My stomach twisted. How deep did this go? Who was she before I met her? And who was I to her? A distraction, a shield, a mistake, or something worse? I let out a slow, steady breath. Say it, I murmured. Her lips parted, and for the first time I saw it fear. Not for me, for herself. And that was when I realized she wasn't the one in control of this. Someone else was. And if I wanted answers, I needed to stop looking at her and start looking at the man who had been standing here, smiling, the entire time.